On the day we were set to embark on our honeymoon, I was stunned when he handed me divorce papers instead, announcing that he was taking his entire family on what was meant to be our trip. He coldly added that if I objected, we could just part ways. Internally seething with anger, I managed to keep my composure and calmly responded, "Fine, but remember, I am still my person." His shocked expression gave me a fleeting sense of victory. "My name is Samantha, I'm 37 years old, and I work in real estate, a job that I genuinely love and find fulfilling. I'm fortunate to have supportive colleagues. However, despite my professional success, my personal life feels unremarkable. I don't have any hobbies and I've never had a boyfriend." A growing concern had been shadowing me. Most of my friends had married by their 30s. I was among the few still single, and it didn't help that my younger colleagues were progressively leaving the company, which always left a pang of sadness. Then, through a mutual friend, I met Daniel. He was 3 years my junior, with a comforting smile that immediately drew me in. He was a man of few words, preferring to listen rather than speak, but he always made sure my opinions were valued in any decisions we needed to make. Having no prior experience in relationships, I quickly grew fond of him. As our relationship evolved, I brought up marriage, and Daniel simply agreed without hesitation. Marriage is a significant life decision. It involves planning a wedding, a honeymoon, and setting up a new home together. I was eager for us to make these decisions jointly. However, Daniel always deferred to me, never voicing his preferences. Over time, this made him seem less reliable and more distant. My dissatisfaction with Daniel began to grow, and another troubling aspect was my relationship with my future mother-in-law, who was the polar opposite of Daniel's easygoing nature. She was domineering, rarely considering my views and often imposing her own. "Samantha, once you're married, you'll quit your job and focus on the home, right? You're not getting any younger, and if you don't hurry, you might struggle to have kids. Daniel is working hard, so as a woman, you should concentrate on the family. It's a wife's duty to support her husband," she declared during one of our first meetings. She adhered to outdated notions, believing the husband should work while the wife manages the home. Ironically, I earned more than Daniel, a fact he didn't mind and had even shared with his parents. His mother, however, looked down on this. "A woman who earns more than a man isn't charming. Can you even manage household chores? A wife should cook, do laundry, clean, and take care of her husband's health. Can you do that?" she challenged, clearly underestimating me. Contrary to her assumptions, I had been living independently for years, managing all my household tasks efficiently. I had no intention of quitting my job after marriage either. I wanted to balance my personal and professional life, prioritizing my needs as well as Daniel's. But whenever my mother-in-law voiced these criticisms, Daniel didn't defend me. He simply nodded along, which sowed seeds of doubt in my mind about his reliability as a partner for life. This lack of support from Daniel made me uneasy about our future together, questioning whether I could truly rely on him when it mattered. Despite Daniel being younger than me, I sometimes hope that he might grow into a more reliable partner as he ages. There's a part of me that fears if this marriage doesn't work out, I may never marry at all. My mind is constantly torn between anxiety and longing, caught in a relentless battle while time marches on unforgivingly. With so many decisions to finalize for the wedding, from choosing a honeymoon destination to scheduling time off from work, my to-do list only seems to expand, adding to my unease. Amidst the hectic days balancing work and wedding preparations, I decided to discuss our plans with Daniel. One day, taking into account our work schedules, I brought up the idea of timing our honeymoon. Considering our work schedules, this might be our only chance to take a long vacation. Should we plan our honeymoon during this period? I asked Daniel. "Yeah, that sounds good to me," Daniel replied easily. It seemed we had a rare opportunity as both of us would be free from work obligations simultaneously, However, the wedding venue I had always dreamed of was so popular that it was booked for over a year. Faced with this dilemma, I proposed an unconventional solution. "What do you think about having the honeymoon before the wedding?" I checked, and some people do that. "If we wait to have the wedding first, it will be another 3 years before we can go on the trip," I explained. "If you're okay with it, Samantha, then I'm fine with it too," Daniel said without hesitation. I was somewhat relieved that Daniel didn't object to my suggestion, yet his easy agreement was bittersweet. He seemed to accept all my opinions without any resistance. While part of me appreciated the lack of opposition, I also wished he would express his thoughts more often. Nevertheless, I took comfort in knowing that, for now, we could move forward without any direct conflicts, seizing the opportunities as they came. I continued to press ahead with the arrangements for our honeymoon and wedding. Eventually, we settled in Europe for our honeymoon. I was torn between Florida and Europe right up until the last minute. Florida was closer, and I felt we could always visit it another time, so I opted for the allure of Italy and Spain, eager to wander their beautiful streets and savor the delicious food. I was also looking forward to shopping for stylish accessories and special tableware to celebrate the start of our new life together. After carefully aligning our schedules and destinations, I finalized all the arrangements about a month before our departure. By then, my excitement had peaked. This was to be my first journey overseas, and I was buzzing with enthusiasm, my mind wholly occupied with thoughts of Europe, from buying travel essentials to planning our activities there. Amidst this excitement, any previous frustrations I had with Daniel seemed to vanish. However, just a week before our honeymoon, Daniel brought up something unexpected that caught me off guard. It was rare for him to make requests, so I was intrigued, wondering if it might be related to our trip. Perhaps he had found a particular place he wanted to visit in Paris? Filled with curiosity, I asked him, "What's on your mind, Daniel?" Quite innocently, he made his request. "I want to go to Finch Melody Auditorium when we're in Paris. Mom wants to go there," he said. I was taken aback. "Your mother-in-law? Wait, what do you mean?" I stammered, unable to keep up with this sudden shift in plans. But to Daniel, it seemed an obvious addition. "Well, since everyone else is going," he explained as if it were a matter of fact, leaving me to grapple with the unexpected intrusion into our plans. We were discussing the trip when Daniel dropped a bombshell. "We'll all be together during the trip, right?" he said casually, as if it were the most natural thing. "What do you mean, everyone? It's our honeymoon, so obviously it should just be the two of us," I replied, confused. Daniel seemed unfazed as he explained, "My mom thinks it's normal for the whole family to come along." I was floored. "Daniel, I only made reservations for 2, just you and me. The booking deadline was a week ago. Today is the last day to confirm our plans, and I've only registered us," I said, trying to keep my composure. "It might still be possible for the whole family to join. If you talk to the travel agency, they might sort something out," Daniel suggested optimistically. Before I could respond, the intercom buzzed. On the screen, I saw my in-laws. Without waiting for an invitation, they barged into the house with several bags. My mother-in-law's eyes gleamed with excitement as she announced, "I thought I'd drop off the luggage here since we're leaving soon. I'm so excited." Daniel quickly took charge of the situation. "Just leave the luggage here," he said, leading them into the room without seeking my approval. "Wait a minute," I interjected, trying to halt the unfolding chaos, but my mother-in-law gave me a sharp look. "What's the matter, Samantha?" "I hope you're not saying now that you don't want us all to go together," she challenged. "I never agreed to go together in the first place," I retorted, but she brushed off my response. "You heard her, she just said no," she stated dismissively, then turned to Daniel, coaxing him. "But you always thought we would go together, right?" "Yeah," Daniel replied simply, supporting his mother's assumption. My mother-in-law seized on his agreement and continued to undermine me. "It's normal for the husband's parents to go on the honeymoon. Don't you have common sense?" This left me questioning not only the trip, but also the foundation of our relationship. As the situation escalated, my mother-in-law attempted to smooth over the tension with a troubling statement. "I hope you won't ruin the trip with any unpleasant experiences. It's a special honeymoon after all, and we want to make good memories, right? I'll make sure to teach you some common sense this week before we leave," she said, treating it as a given that she and the rest of the family would be joining us. Feeling my frustration boil over, I countered, "This is a honeymoon, you know. Normally, it's just supposed to be the husband and wife." I knew that if I caved to my mother-in-law's demands now, it would set a terrible precedent for our future. I was determined to avoid that at all costs, yet she remained unyielding and even dismissed my concerns outright. "The husband's parents joining the honeymoon is just common sense. I can't believe you don't want to be with us. I thought we were becoming a family, but it seems our ideas of common sense are different. You don't seem to like me, and nothing seems to match how sad," she lamented, her tone tinged with insincerity as her eyebrows furrowed in a feigned disappointment. Her words, "how sad," seemed laced with a hidden smirk, convincing me that she was deliberately trying to manipulate the situation. Even Daniel, without a second thought, sided with her based on her portrayal. "Samantha, what's wrong with you? They're my parents. It's okay for us to go on the honeymoon together, right?" "It's not possible," I declared firmly. "We've already booked reservations for just 2 people. Plus, I've never heard of families joining a honeymoon trip." Daniel's response was heated, as if he was spoiling for a confrontation. "I never realized you disliked my parents so much, Samantha," he exclaimed. Then, dismissing the discussion, he added coldly, "That's enough, just leave for today," looking at me as if he couldn't believe my stance. As he spoke, a sly smile spread across my mother-in-law's face. I stood there, bewildered and hurt, wondering why Daniel always sided with his mother without considering his spouse's feelings, especially at such a critical moment. I stood outside, feeling utterly abandoned as the door slammed shut behind me. In that fleeting moment before the door closed, I caught a glimpse of my mother-in-law's smug expression, a look that seemed to celebrate her victory. Alone and bewildered, I questioned why I was being painted as the antagonist, why this special trip and indeed everything seemed doomed to be spoiled. Overwhelmed by frustration and sadness, tears began to stream down my face. A few hours later, my phone buzzed with a message from Daniel. "I want you to check if it's still possible for my parents to join the tour. If not, we'll cancel this trip and find one that all of us can go on. Please think rationally and reconsider. We can sort this out if you do." His words stung. There was no acknowledgement of my feelings, only a cold push for rationality as he saw it. He didn't contact me again after that message, and as time passed, I sensed that he was likely just as upset as I was. Despite everything, the day we were supposed to leave for our honeymoon arrived. I was in no mood to enjoy it, but having spent a month preparing, I couldn't just walk away. As I was getting ready, the intercom rang. It was Daniel coming to pick me up. We hadn't seen each other since the heated confrontation, and I was unsure how to act around him. His arrival suggested he still intended to go on the trip, but oddly, he didn't have any luggage. Instead, he held a set of divorce papers in his hand. "You still plan to go on this trip after hurting my parents, didn't you?" he accused, his voice laden with disappointment. "I'm taking my whole family on this honeymoon. If you don't like it, let's get a divorce." His words were a cold finale to our conflict, leaving no room for discussion. It was clear that in his eyes, the familial bonds outweighed our relationship, and his mother's influence was decisive. Caught between heartbreak and disbelief, I stood frozen, realizing that my marriage was ending before it had even begun. Daniel presented the divorce papers with a chilling finality, parroting his mother's words, "My mom said it would be better this way." In that moment, the stark reality of who he was crystallized before me. I had always imagined he would listen to me, value my feelings, and be kind. Instead, it became glaringly apparent that he lacked his convictions and placed his family's wishes above our relationship. As this understanding dawned on me, my feelings for him cooled significantly. The prospect of marrying him seemed increasingly futile, especially with the looming presence of his overbearing mother. The future, if tethered to them, appeared filled with unending compromises and disputes. Determined, I pointed to the divorce papers he had thrust in front of me and responded with a decisiveness that took him aback. "Sure, but remember, I'm still single." "Single? What do you mean?" Daniel looked genuinely confused, his earlier composure slipping. "Weren't you listening? We talked about going on the honeymoon but delaying the marriage registration until the day of the ceremony. I made sure to get your agreement, Daniel. You didn't forget, did you? The marriage certificate is still in the drawer. You even said, 'If you are fine with it, Samantha, then I'm fine too.' That's right, divorce or not, we're not even married yet. There's no problem with me going on the honeymoon under my maiden name." Perhaps my words jolted a memory as Daniel's face momentarily showed a flicker of recognition before turning crimson with frustration. "Are you out of your mind to give up on marriage just because of a honeymoon? Get a grip," he exclaimed. Matching his intensity with my firm voice, I stood my ground. "This is the result of me being rational. You've shown where your priorities lie, and I must protect my interests and well-being in this situation." This confrontation wasn't just about a trip. It was a stand against losing myself and my autonomy in a marriage that was proving to be founded on conditional terms and expectations I could not accept. I had been so desperate to get married that I lost sight of reality. I realized I couldn't be happy marrying someone who doesn't respect his future spouse's opinions or offer support. "I'd rather stay single for life. Thanks for helping me see that haste truly makes waste," I declared, feeling the truth of that old saying deeply. "Hey, Samantha, let's calm down and start over, okay?" Daniel pleaded, his voice trembling as if he were on the verge of tears. But I was no longer swayed by his appeals. My resolve had hardened. I was determined to break free from him. In a moment of clarity, I found myself raising my voice at Daniel. "If you're so desperate for a family trip, why don't you go with your family of 3? But this time, you'll have to plan everything yourself, from the tour reservations to the itinerary. After always relying on others, it's about time you experience the difficulty firsthand. If you think you can handle it, go ahead, you indecisive man." I pulled out the marriage certificate from the drawer and tore it to shreds right in front of him. His mouth fell open, shocked by my actions and overwhelmed by my determination. "Do you understand how serious I am now? I refuse to have a future that's dictated by others. It's over between us. Why don't you go back to your beloved mommy and cry to her, you mama's boy?" I said, leaving a stunned Daniel behind as I slammed the front door shut. Given his demeanor, he might take my advice and seek comfort from his mother. I could almost picture it. Afterward, I contacted the tour company to cancel our reservations. Given it was a same-day cancellation, despite the financial loss, the sense of liberation from deciding for my well-being was worth every penny. After the cancellation of our honeymoon, I decided to bill Daniel for the entire amount, as it was his actions that led to the fiasco. It seemed only fair given the circumstances. Later, Daniel attempted to shift the blame for our failed marriage onto me, and even spread rumors within our circle of friends and coworkers. However, his efforts to garner sympathy backfired. Among our relatives and colleagues, he gained a reputation as a mama's boy, a label that stemmed from his past behavior, and this did not endear him to many. When I discussed the divorce with my parents, they were initially taken aback but quickly came around. They reminded me that marriage isn't the sole source of happiness. "As long as you're happy, Samantha, that's what matters," they said. Their support was a great comfort to me during that turbulent time. On a brighter note, this whole ordeal reignited my passion for traveling. It seemed a shame to let the opportunity for long vacations pass by, so I embarked on my first solo trip. Traveling alone to overseas destinations was initially daunting, but turned out to be incredibly fulfilling. I visited historic cities I had always dreamed of seeing and discovered that I quite enjoyed the solitude. The experience of solo travel opened up a new realm of freedom and adventure for me. Thanks to these solo adventures, I've grown to love traveling on my terms. I'm eagerly planning my next trip abroad for my upcoming break. This new chapter of my life is one where I am not defined by marriage or controlled by others' expectations. Instead, I am embracing a lifestyle where I can explore the world and myself freely.